I wasn't supposed to be home early. That day, things just lined up. My client meeting wrapped up ahead of schedule, the airport wasn't crowded for once, and I somehow caught an earlier flight out of Dallas. Even the Austin traffic seemed to take the afternoon off. By the time I stepped through our front door, it wasn't even 4 p.m. I remember thinking maybe I should have called Rachel to let her know, but the idea of surprising her felt nice, romantic even. We hadn't been clicking lately. Too many "how was your day" exchanges. Not enough real connection. I missed us. I thought maybe a spontaneous gesture might break through whatever weird wall had been building between us. I was wrong. The house was quiet. Too quiet, honestly. No music, no TV in the background. No sound of the laundry machine running. Just the distant hum of the AC and the occasional creak of the floor as I walked in. I dropped my bags by the entryway and noticed the shared iPad blinking on the kitchen counter. A notification had popped up. Normally I wouldn't bother with it. I've never been the snooping type, but something about how it lit up the kitchen in that moment made me pause. It was an electronic receipt from Hotel Carmichael, a boutique spot downtown, a place we'd stayed at once for an anniversary weekend. The reservation showed a double room booked that same afternoon. Underneath it were 2 charges from the hotel bar. Cocktails. Not just one. My heart gave this weird, offbeat thump. I tapped into the confirmation email, hoping it was maybe some glitch or promotional spam. But no, it was a real transaction. The timestamp on the reservation was 2:47 p.m. Just a couple of hours before I walked through the door. The check-in name had Rachel's company listed. But that didn't make sense. They had offices all over town, not hotels. Why would she need a hotel room in the middle of the day? I stood there, rereading the email, trying to push down the unease starting to crawl up my spine. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe the team needed a quiet place to meet a client or rehearse for a pitch. Maybe they rented a space because the office was under renovation. But then, maybe not. I shut off the screen and leaned against the counter, feeling suddenly like I'd walked into someone else's life. Just breathe, I told myself. Don't jump to conclusions. I walked into the laundry room to toss in the button-up I'd worn to the meeting. The basket was half full with a mix of workout clothes, a couple of blouses, and on top, a men's t-shirt. Size L. Black, plain, but not one I recognized. I picked it up instinctively, thinking maybe it had been mixed in by mistake from a gym load or something. But it didn't smell like detergent. It smelled like cologne. Sharp, clean, almost citrusy. Not mine. I stood there staring at it for way too long. Rachel and I do the laundry on a rotating basis. I know every item of clothing that comes through this house. This shirt wasn't just unfamiliar, it felt wrong. Like a foreign object in a place it didn't belong. That's when I heard the front door open. I quickly dropped the shirt back in the basket, suddenly unsure why I felt guilty, like I'd been the one caught. "Alex," Rachel called out, her heels clicking against the wood floor. "What are you doing home?" I stepped out into the hallway just as she rounded the corner. She was dressed sharp, tailored pants, blouse tucked in, a leather tote slung over her shoulder. Not business casual, business polished. A little too polished for a regular Thursday. "Caught an early flight," I said. "Figured I'd surprise you." Her smile flickered. "Oh, wow, okay. That's great." She didn't sound thrilled. More like scrambling to recalibrate. She walked over and gave me a quick hug. Too quick. "Really?" Then started rambling about a client presentation that got pushed, a project manager from New York flying in, some vendor delays. It was all a blur of corporate jargon and filler words. The kind of explanation that says a lot without actually explaining anything. I just listened. She moved into the kitchen and opened the fridge, pulling out a sparkling water and cracking it open like we were talking about groceries. "How was your trip?" she asked, not looking at me. "It was good," I said slowly. "Nothing crazy." She nodded, still facing the fridge. "That Dallas traffic's brutal this time of day. You lucked out." I watched her closely. "Yeah, I did." There was a pause. Not awkward, more like loaded. I waited for her to ask how long I'd been home. She didn't. Instead, she picked up the iPad from the counter, where I'd left the screen off, and held it like it was a bomb someone had forgotten to detonate. Her eyes scanned the notifications briefly before she clicked them away. She turned to me with a casual smile. "Oh, right, if you see any weird hotel receipts, it's just from today's offsite. Last-minute thing. We needed a quiet spot for a client debrief. Total chaos." I raised an eyebrow. "Hotel Carmichael?" She nodded. "Yep. That place is surprisingly affordable. We didn't even stay, we just used a room for a few hours to hash out final numbers. The team grabbed drinks afterward. We didn't want to do it in the office, and it was too loud at the usual places. 2 cocktails." She shrugged. "Mine and Maria's. We split the tab. You know how she is with expense reports, always a mess. Right?" I wanted to ask her why a team meeting required a hotel bed. Why the shirt in the laundry didn't belong to either of us. Why none of this added up. But instead I said nothing. Because I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe this was a blip. A misunderstanding. That if I pressed, I'd look like the paranoid one. That I'd be the guy who came home early and created a scene over nothing. I didn't want to be that guy. So I just nodded. Rachel leaned on the counter and sipped her drink. "By the way, did the dry cleaning come back yet? I need that navy blazer for next week's mixer." I shook my head. "Haven't seen it." She clicked her tongue. "Ugh. I swear that place keeps losing our stuff." And just like that, she pivoted. Topic shifted. Back to our usual rhythm. Casual, surface level. The way she steered the conversation away from anything remotely uncomfortable was almost masterful. Like she'd trained for it. I stood there, watching her move around the kitchen, answering emails on her phone, tossing out small talk like confetti. I smiled, nodded, played along. But inside, something cracked. Quietly. Because in the span of 15 minutes, I realized 2 things. 1, something wasn't right. And 2, she wasn't going to tell me the truth unless I forced it out of her. So I didn't force it. Not yet. But from that point on, I started paying closer attention. After that day, I stopped trying to talk myself out of what I felt. I didn't bring it up again, the receipt, the shirt, the hotel. I told myself I'd wait. Watch. Observe without confrontation. That felt smarter. Safer. But the truth was, I didn't want to hear Rachel lie to my face again. I wasn't ready for that. And once I let myself stop playing dumb, it was like a door opened. Or maybe I just finally walked through one that had been wide open for months. Started small. Her phone, for example. Rachel used to leave it everywhere, on the coffee table, the bathroom sink, wedged between couch cushions. She was never precious about it. Until recently. Now it was always face down. On silent. And locked. Not just locked, relocked. She started changing her passcode. I only noticed because I used to grab her phone all the time to play music while cooking or check traffic while mine was charging. But now, locked out. "Oh, I changed it. Too many spam texts," she'd say. "Just ask me if you need something." But I didn't ask. I just stopped touching it. Then came the workouts. Rachel had always been health conscious, but over the last couple of months, it became an obsession. Not just a class or 2 a week. Now it was training, as she called it. Sessions with some instructor I'd never met, sometimes twice a day. Always booked through a boutique app. And always at weird times. Early mornings, late evenings, weekends. And when I'd ask how it went, the answers were vague. "Good," she'd say. Then scroll through her phone or vanish into the bedroom. Once or twice, I offered to join her, jokingly. But her reaction was always the same. Stiff smile, followed by, "It's really not your kind of workout, babe." Then came the volunteering. That one hit me sideways. Rachel had always been the career-first type, not exactly the soup kitchen kind. But suddenly she was passionate about giving back. She said she'd joined a community outreach committee through her company. Started spending Saturday afternoons and sometimes Sundays coordinating events. I wanted to believe her. I did. But one weekend I texted her, just to see how things were going, and she didn't reply for 5 hours. When she finally did, she said, "Sorry, we were sorting donations. Left my phone in the car." It was a simple answer. Almost too simple. And it kept happening. What really got me was the toothbrush. It appeared one night, sitting in our upstairs bathroom, resting in the ceramic cup next to mine. Not just a travel brush or a disposable either, it was electric. Gray. Sleek. Men's. I stared at it for a full minute. I even picked it up and inspected it like some kind of forensic analyst. Still wet. Recently used. Rachel had brothers, sure. A father. Guy friends. But none of them had been over. And none of them, to my knowledge, brushed their teeth in our house. I asked her about it. Casually. Didn't even make eye contact. She laughed. Oh, that's Layla's. For the kids. Her son's got braces. And she didn't want to carry the charger back and forth. Don't worry, I'll move it. Layla. Her sister. Right. I wanted to believe that too. A few days later, the toothbrush was gone. But something else started lingering. Cologne. I'd smell it in the hallway sometimes. Faint but noticeable. Or in the car if she'd borrowed mine for errands. It wasn't anything I used, not my scent. It was expensive, sharp, almost woodsy. It didn't linger on her clothes, exactly. More like in the air around her. I remember once, right before bed, I leaned in to kiss her neck, and it hit me. That cologne. Strong. Fresh. She said she'd been helping Layla carry boxes all day and probably picked it up off someone's jacket. I didn't push it. I just nodded. But I didn't sleep much that night. The receipts were next. I wasn't looking for them, not at first. I found one when I was emptying the trash in the car. An Uber drop-off to an address I didn't recognize. Downtown. A block from Hotel Carmichael. I looked it up. It was an apartment building. High-rise. Modern. I remembered thinking, why not a house? Why not a friend's place? Then I found more. Crumpled in her purse when she asked me to grab her keys. Wedged in a jacket pocket while doing laundry. Ride shares. Food deliveries. Some on days she claimed to be working late. Others on weekends she said she was at volunteer retreats. Over and over, the same location. And that's when I started tracking the patterns. I didn't need to go full spy mode. I just started writing things down. Her alibis. Her locations. The receipts. I didn't even tell anyone. Not my friends, not my family. I didn't want pity, and I wasn't ready for advice. I just wanted clarity. The final piece of the puzzle came when Layla moved in. It was supposed to be temporary. Just a couple of weeks, Rachel had said. Her lease fell through. She needs a place while she finds something stable for her and the kids. I didn't mind at first. I liked Layla well enough, and her two boys were polite and well-behaved. But a couple of weeks turned into a couple of months, and soon the house felt like a rotating daycare. Toys everywhere. Noise at all hours. Bathroom always occupied. Kitchen constantly a mess. Rachel used the chaos as a reason to stay out longer. It's too loud at home. I need to focus, she'd say. Or, I'm meeting a coworker to work on this proposal. We'll be out late. It became her get-out-of-jail-free card. And any time I voiced even mild frustration about the noise, the mess, the way we never had time alone, she brushed me off. You're being sensitive, she said once. This isn't about you. They needed help. Try being a little generous. She made me feel selfish, like wanting peace in my own house made me the bad guy. So I stopped bringing it up. I let the house go to chaos. I let her go to her meetings, her workouts, her volunteer shifts. I stopped asking questions. But I didn't stop watching. I kept a log. Dates, times, places. The Uber receipts. The changing passwords. The missed calls. And through it all, Rachel kept pretending everything was fine. She'd kiss me goodbye in the mornings, text me smiley faces in the afternoons, cuddle up next to me on the couch during Netflix nights. But something had changed. I could feel it in her silence, in how she always seemed halfway out the door, in how she used Layla's presence as insulation from Macy, and chaos as cover for emotional distance. There were nights I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling, wondering if I was just being paranoid, if I was connecting dots that didn't exist, if maybe I was the one drifting, not her. Maybe the distance was mutual and I was just assigning blame because it was easier than accepting that we'd both let things go. But then I'd remember the shirt, the cologne, the second toothbrush, the hotel receipt, the lie that came so easily. No, I wasn't imagining it. I was seeing it clearly for the first time. And I knew, deep down, that something was happening. I just didn't know how much longer I could keep pretending it wasn't. There's a difference between a suspicion and a fact. For a long time, I lived in the space between the two, where things felt off, looked off, sounded wrong, but could still be explained away. Maybe that was me protecting myself, or maybe it was hope. Either way, I was holding out, until I couldn't anymore. The moment came on a Friday. I remember because Rachel had been buzzing about some big corporate event her company was throwing at a rented co-working space downtown. A mixer, she called it. Client Retention Strategy Showcase, or something equally inflated. She mentioned it twice in passing, just enough to establish that she'd be home late. Said there'd be drinks, networking, maybe a DJ if marketing gets its way. She made a joke about the dress code, said her boss was pushing professional chic, but she was planning to lean more on the chic. I remember nodding, smiling, pretending to care, but inside, I was already making a plan. See, I had this feeling, that tight in the gut kind of knowing that doesn't ask for permission. I didn't want to confront her. I wanted to confirm what I already suspected so I could stop playing dumb. I needed proof, not for revenge, not even to throw in her face, just for me, so I could stop gaslighting myself. So I drove to the event. I didn't tell her, obviously. I waited until after she left. Said I was meeting a friend for dinner, which wasn't even a lie. I did stop for food. Ate alone in my car with the windows down, thinking about how surreal it all felt. By the time I pulled up to the co-working building, the sun had started to set. Her car was already there, parked 3 spots from the front entrance. I circled around to the back lot, K** led my headlights, and waited. I could hear music, soft bass thumping through the rooftop speakers, laughter echoing down the concrete stairwell. It looked like a party. I sat there for 10 minutes, maybe more, debating whether I was crazy, whether I should just leave. But I didn't. Instead, I walked up the side stairwell and took the service elevator to the top floor. I told myself I'd just look, just peek in. If I saw her with coworkers, laughing, holding a drink, doing exactly what she said she was doing, then fine. I'd go home, delete my notes, forget the receipts, and move on. But that's not what I saw. The rooftop was strung with lights, those warm Edison bulbs that make everything look like a rom-com scene. There was a bar station, a handful of high-top tables, and maybe 40 people milling around. I stayed near the stairwell exit, mostly hidden behind a tall potted plant. It didn't take long to find her. Rachel was on the far end of the terrace, standing with her back partially turned. She wore a pale blue dress, tight, backless, the kind I hadn't seen her wear in months. Her hair was done up, makeup perfect. She looked incredible. Not for me, though. For him. He was standing close. Too close. One hand on the rail behind her, the other holding a glass. He leaned in, said something that made her smile in that soft way she used to smile at me. Then she touched his arm. Quick. Familiar. Like a reflex. They weren't drunk. This wasn't a flirty mistake. It was something else. Something established. Then he leaned in and kissed her. It wasn't long or heated. Just quiet. Certain. She didn't push him away. She pulled him closer. And just like that, the line between suspicion and fact disappeared. I felt everything and nothing at once. Numb. Cold. Hollow. But buzzing inside. Like my brain was trying to explode just to process what I'd seen. I raised my phone, not even thinking, and recorded a few seconds. No sound. Just enough to see the kiss, the embrace, the way she looked up at him. Then I left. I didn't storm in. Didn't make a scene. I took the stairs all the way down, one hand gripping the rail so hard my knuckles ached. When I got to my car, I sat there, engine off, watching my own breath in the dark. I played the video back once. That was all I needed. But it didn't stop there. Later that night, after she got home, buzzed and flushed, talking about how great the event was, I checked our doorbell camera history. We'd had one of those smart cams installed a year ago when package thefts were happening on our block. I rarely reviewed the clips unless something was missing. But I reviewed them now. And there he was. The same guy from the rooftop. Tall. Dark jacket. Mid-30s, maybe. He showed up on a Tuesday evening the week before. Used a key to let himself in. Walked inside like he lived there. No hesitation. Rachel wasn't home when I got back that night. Said she was having dinner with Layla. He left just after sunrise the next day. Another clip. Friday morning, same routine. Early enough to avoid the neighbors. I stared at the timestamps, the grainy footage, the way he turned toward the camera for half a second. Confident. No mask. No rush. They weren't just sneaking around. They were bold. I saved both clips to my phone and synced them with the rooftop video. Labeled the files. Dated them. Sent copies to my personal cloud. Backed them up to a drive. It wasn't even about catching her anymore. It was about clarity. I needed to see all the pieces lined up. A picture I couldn't ignore or edit or excuse. That night, when Rachel slid into bed next to me and kissed my shoulder, I felt sick. She asked how dinner went. I said it was fine. She told me she missed me lately, that we needed to plan something together soon. I said, yeah, we should. She fell asleep with her arm draped over my chest. I lay there for hours staring at the ceiling, feeling like my life had been invaded by strangers who wore our faces. I kept wondering how long it had been going on, whether I'd ever know the truth, or whether it even mattered anymore. She had brought another man into our home, into our bed in a way, into her life and mine by default, and I'd caught it on camera. The next day I went for a long drive. No destination, just roads. I thought about confronting her, about printing out the **TS, setting them on the table, and asking her to tell me what they were. But I knew what she'd say. It's not what it looks like. I can explain. We're just friends. No, I didn't want lies. I didn't want a scene. I wanted distance, space, plan. So I made one. Over the next few days I moved quietly, gathered documents, called a lawyer, found a short-term lease across the city, started separating finances, opened a personal bank account, ordered new cards. I scheduled a meeting with a notary and began drafting a settlement agreement. All while Rachel acted like nothing was wrong. She still kissed me goodbye in the mornings. Still sent texts like, "Pick up oat milk?" or "Want Thai tonight?" Like we were still normal. Like we were still us. But we weren't. I had proof. And soon I'd have a way out. Rachel's mom invited us to dinner 2 weeks later. Some kind of family gathering, birthday, anniversary, I don't remember. What I do remember is Rachel acting unusually eager about it. She practically insisted we go. "Everyone's going to be there," she said, brushing lint off my shirt like we were still in some perfect sitcom marriage. You know how mom gets when people skip these things. Sure, I knew how her mom got, but that wasn't why I agreed. I agreed because I was ready. By then, I had everything I needed: dates, footage, **TS. I had the hotel receipts, the doorbell camera footage, the video from the rooftop terrace, and an export of Rachel's chat logs I'd recovered from our synced cloud storage. I wasn't even snooping. The files were just there, tucked inside a forgotten folder labeled Backups, a gift from her own digital laziness. Inside that folder were messages between her and the man I'd seen on the rooftop. His name was Logan, project director, married with 2 kids. They spoke in code at first, project terms, timelines, but it didn't take much to see through it. Late install at 9, follow-up debrief tomorrow, room already reserved. Corporate speak masking int * Macy. There were photos too. A blurry mirror selfie of Rachel in the same blue dress, taken from a hotel bathroom. A photo of 2 cocktails side by side, captioned "Endless revisions LOL." Her hand in his, just enough to remove any doubt. So when the dinner invitation came, I knew it was time. I didn't want revenge. I wasn't going to stand up in front of the family and scream. I wanted quiet clarity. I wanted people to see, not hear, what was really going on. So I printed copies. Not many, just 3. One envelope labeled, "For Rachel." One labeled, "For Mom and Dad." And one, unlabeled, placed in front of Layla. The evening was warm, casual. Someone brought wine, someone else brought pie. The kids ran in circles in the backyard while the adults sat around the table pretending to care about garden renovations and work-life balance. Rachel wore a white sundress. Her hair curled, her smile polished. She touched my arm a few times, laughed at my jokes, poured me a second glass of wine. Every move felt rehearsed. Across the table, Layla sat quietly texting. She'd barely said a word since we arrived. Dinner was served. Plates passed. Conversations shifted. Then Layla, maybe emboldened by the wine, maybe just tired of the act, said it. You know, if Alex ever just vanished one day, she said with a half laugh, I doubt anyone in this family would even notice. The words were sharp, and they hung in the air longer than they should have. Rachel's dad gave a quiet chuckle. Awkward. Her mom glanced at me with that tight smile that begged for forgiveness. Rachel didn't say anything, just looked down at her plate. I reached into my bag and placed the 3 envelopes on the table. The room went quiet. Rachel blinked. What's this? Dinner's been lovely, I said calm. But I brought some things I think we should all read. Her parents opened their envelope first. They didn't speak for a while. Just scanned the contents, screensh *TS, timelines, names, hotel confirmations. Her mom's hand went to her mouth. Her father sat straighter, jaw tightening. Layla opened hers last. She pulled out the printed chat logs and froze. Then, one by one, flipped through the photos. I watched her face drain of color, her breath stutter. She tried to speak but didn't. Rachel finally reached for hers. Her hands were shaking. She looked through the pages with growing dread, her eyes darting to mine, then to her parents. What is this, Alex? She said, her voice low. Why would you do this here? I didn't answer, not with words. I looked around the table, at the people who had for years watched her narrative unfold without ever questioning it. The ones who'd called me sensitive, distant, inflexible. The ones who made excuses for her bad days, her absences, her sudden mood swings. The ones who never once asked me how I was doing when the cracks started to show. Layla pushed her chair back and left the table without a word. Rachel sat frozen, her fingers gripping the envelope like it might vanish if she held on tight enough. Her mom tried to say something, but her dad held up a hand. Let him speak, he said quietly. But I didn't want to speak. I stood, adjusted my jacket, and said only, "Thank you for dinner." Then I walked out. The silence followed me all the way to the car. That night, Rachel didn't come home. She didn't text, didn't call. The house was quiet again, eerily so. The kids were asleep. Layla's door stayed shut. I went to bed early, but I didn't sleep. The next morning, I woke up to the family group chat lit up with notifications. A message from Layla, sent at 6:12 a.m. I want to publicly apologize for my words last night. They were cruel and uncalled for. Alex didn't deserve that, and I take full responsibility for what I said and for things I helped cover. I'll be moving out this weekend. She followed it with a second message. I need to be honest. I knew more than I let on. I regret not speaking up sooner. I'm sorry, Alex. I stared at the messages for a while, rereading them. I didn't reply. Didn't need to. Later that day, Layla packed her things. She avoided eye contact, but she stopped by the kitchen once, pausing in the doorway. I shouldn't have said what I said, she whispered. You've been nothing but decent to us. I nodded. Take care of your boys. She nodded back. By nightfall, she was gone. Rachel returned late, said nothing. We passed each other in the hallway like coworkers who'd once dated, and now couldn't stand the silence between them. Her eyes were red, her mascara faintly smudged. She opened her mouth to speak, then closed it. I walked past her without a word. In the days that followed, the house settled into a strange calm. No more guests, no more excuses. Just 2 people orbiting the final collapse of a marriage in slow motion. She didn't apologize, not really. Not yet. But her silence said everything. And the envelope said the rest. The strange thing about endings is how quiet they are. When people talk about breaking up a marriage, They imagined slammed doors and shouted confessions, sobbing in hallways and suitcases flung down the stairs. But that's not how it happened for me. That's not how it needed to happen. By the time I left Rachel, the marriage had already been gone for a while. What remained was just a shell, a structure we both walked through like ghosts. I'd been preparing for the exit ever since I saw her on the rooftop. Leaving wasn't just about heartbreak. It was logistics. It was passwords, paperwork, duplicate keys. It was slow and steady steps taken with discipline, not emotion. I rented a furnished apartment across town under my name only. Small but clean. I didn't need space, I needed distance. I opened a safe deposit box at a bank 2 miles from our house and stored what mattered. Passport, birth certificate, my grandmother's watch, a flash drive with all the evidence, and a printout of the settlement draft. I transferred money into a new checking account, separated from the joint one Rachel still used for groceries, bills, and weekend brunches with friends. She never noticed. Or if she did, she said nothing. Maybe she thought I was gearing up to ask for a trial separation. Maybe she assumed she still held the cards. She didn't. I updated my mailing address with the bank, the DMV, my HR department. Slowly, my name began to disappear from our house. No new mail in the foyer basket. No packages on the porch with Alex, in bold black print. I even rerouted my Amazon account. Small things, but together they meant something. The morning after Layla moved out, I sat at the kitchen table and filled out the final sections of the settlement agreement. Kept it clean. No drama, no demands. I wasn't after revenge. I just wanted out. My name off the house. A fair financial split. No ongoing contact, no drawn-out court battle. No war. I left the agreement with my lawyer to review and waited for the right moment. Came on a Thursday. The air was sharp, early spring, that in-between time when the world doesn't know if it wants to warm up or freeze again. Rachel had been distant all week. Not angry, just hollow. Like a guest waiting for her Uber to arrive. She still hadn't mentioned the envelopes. Not directly. She cooked, cleaned, scrolled through her phone like we were roommates who once dated and never officially broke up. And I let her. That afternoon, I took my final steps. I gathered the hard copies, every receipt, every screenshot *T, every chat log and photo, and placed them in a folder labeled simply, for you. I printed the finalized version of the settlement, clipped it to a letter I wrote the night before. It wasn't poetic. It wasn't cruel. It was short, direct, clear. Rachel, I don't hate you, but I can't respect what you did. This is not a conversation. This is not a cliffhanger. This is the end. I'm leaving. I've removed my belongings. You will find a proposed settlement agreement attached. It's fair, and I'm not interested in negotiations. If you have anything you'd like to say, send it through my attorney. Please do not contact me directly. Alex. I made 3 copies, one for her, one for my lawyer, and one for myself. I spent the next 2 hours quietly moving the last of my things. Not much, just essentials. A few outfits. My work laptop. The ceramic mug I've had since college. I didn't want anything that carried shared meaning. If it had memories attached to it, I left it behind. Let her keep the curated life. I'd start over with what was mine alone. Before leaving, I walked through the house one last time. Not as a farewell, but as confirmation. I wasn't sentimental about it. It just felt necessary. Like double-checking a hotel room before checkout. Upstairs, the bed was made. Too neatly. The way she used to do it back when things were good. It looked like a hotel bed now, impersonal and used. In the living room, the throw pillows were stacked just right. The candles arranged in a line. Rachel had always obsessed over symmetry. Even now, her world looked perfect if you didn't open any drawers. I walked into the kitchen and placed the folder on the table. It looked small there, almost out of place, like it didn't belong in the world we built. But it did. It belonged more than either of us did at this point. I didn't leave a note on the fridge. Didn't text her. I simply picked up my bag, took one last breath of that overly lemon-scented air she loved so much, and stepped outside. I locked the door behind me. That was the last time I was in that house. Later that night, Rachel texted once. Just one message. Did you really just leave like this? I didn't respond. The next day, my attorney confirmed receipt of the signed agreement from her end. No revisions. No resistance. Just a signature. That was Rachel's version of closure, I guess. 2 days later, her name disappeared from my favorites list. I muted our shared group chats, told mutual friends not to involve me in updates. If Rachel wanted to post photos with vague captions and cryptic quotes, she could. I was done deciphering her riddles. She tried once more through someone else. A mutual acquaintance texted me a week later. Hey, Rachel said she'd like to talk. Just a quick conversation, no pressure. I replied with a **T of the letter she'd already received and a short message. This chapter is closed. They didn't write back. I moved into my new place that weekend. It wasn't fancy. 1-bedroom, modest kitchen, laminate floors that creaked a little too much. But it was mine. No one else's scent on the pillows. No second toothbrush on the sink. No unexplained cologne drifting in through the hallway. It was quiet. Beautifully, intentionally quiet. At night, I slept with the window cracked open, even if it was cold. I liked the sound of the wind moving through the trees. I liked hearing my own breathing and knowing the only person I had to account for was me. There's something profound about waking up alone without a knot in your stomach. No guessing. No decoding. No wondering who she was texting or where she'd gone or whether you were imagining things. You just wake up and live. I started running again. Not out of stress, but because I wanted to feel my feet hit the ground with purpose. I went back to cooking for one. I bought a plant. I answered emails on time. I reconnected with people I'd unintentionally drifted from during the slow decay of our marriage. Every day, I felt a little bit more like myself. Or maybe not who I was before, but someone new, sharper, quieter, stronger. I never looked back, and Rachel never came after me, which, in the end, told me everything I needed to know.